That's another one of those like secret ways to talk shop with someone is just like jumping in one of those chats and being like,
Right.
hey, hey, what's up? I don't really
Right.
have any requests. I just want to see how's it going.
Right,
How
right,
about
right,
that
right.
e-commerce?
Hey, what's up? Kalen here. Welcome to the first episode of TalkingShop.dev, a podcast where we just talk shop with other developers working with Shopify. And in this episode, I sat down with my longtime friend, David Robinson. He is the director of technology with a fashion brand called Kuyana. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff from functions to Google Sheets integration, NetSuite stuff, a cool discount app that he's using, and a bunch of other stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Even though I've been in e-commerce forever, I haven't really had like an e-commerce, like a Black Friday rush for a long time. I've always been like blissfully like not stressed out by that, like at Commerce Hero and stuff. But yeah,
Sounds
dude,
really healthy.
well, I think it was, I think it was good, but I think it's gonna be a little gnarly this year, dude. I think it's gonna be a little nasty. What about you?
Yeah, it's always a little crazy around this time. We definitely have a lot of gifting and holiday purchasing happening this time of year, so it's always a big ramp up to prepare for.
Nice, nice. I gotta close some windows down, dude. I can settle into this podcast zone.
Get locked in.
Get locked in, yeah, dude. Get fully locked in, dude. Thank you for taking some time. This is I've been I've had the weirdest itch to do this for so long, dude.
No, it's always good to talk to
Um,
you. What was
yeah,
it
man.
that what made you decide to add another podcast to the
Dude,
mix?
like, so I had sort of like let the podcast thing go and all the video stuff and all the multimedia bullshit. It's funny because I was kind of wanting to ask my daughter to edit because I'm trying to get my daughter like a job, and
Yeah,
I was like, I can't curse if she edits this. So um, but um, yeah, like I had really just like I don't even do video for client calls anymore. Like I can't stand it. Like I just want to be left alone and pretty much code now. But then it just came back. Like I just kept thinking, like, man, it'd be cool to just talk about some of this, some of the day-to-day stuff. Like,
hmm
you tweet about it and but you just I don't know, dude, just talking about it is kind of cool. And then when I realized I would be fine if it never got a single view, like and just I just, was able to selfishly have like a cool conversation for myself. Which in
totally.
theory you should be able to just like call a friend and just have a conversation without recording it. But in practice it just doesn't happen. Like, you can like talk to a friend, for like a little bit every once in a while, but if you're like, let's do this again next week at this time, they'll think you're a psycho. So that's, that was kind of how it came to be.
Gotcha. Yeah, I always enjoyed watching your multimedia content. It was great to have your
Really?
voice out there and like starting conversations on Twitter and stuff was always pretty nice. But
So
yeah,
cringe thinking back about it. It's so horrible, dude. I found a video that I was searching for. I can't remember, it was some specific GraphQL thing, and I wasn't finding it in the docs. I Googled it, and I find a YouTube video that the title is like exactly what I'm looking for. I'm like, great. I click into it, and it was one of my Mason videos, and I was so goofy in the video, which I used to like to have fun with those, and then I'd like,
yeah,
cut them heavily and speed them up and stuff. And I had fun with them. But then just looking at it as just a person trying to get an answer to a question, I was like, this guy is such a dumbass. But it was the exact thing I was trying to figure out. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, thanks, past Kalen.
Yeah. Do you use Stack Overflow? Do you remember the Stack Overflow days? Like
Stack
where
Overflow is how I survived when I was working on Magento,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And you would like contribute, like you would answer some questions from time to time, get some points and stuff,
Not a
and then
ton.
okay.
I was like, on Stack Overflow, I got a lot of benefit out of it. And then at one point, I was like, okay, I should contribute. And there was some block, like you couldn't submit an answer unless you had enough points already.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, that's the dumbest thing. Like I'm not going to spend time trying to figure out how to get points before I can answer questions. That doesn't make any
Right.
sense to me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It
these days
lost.
it's like as soon as I have a question, or I'm just like I know that I have something I need to do and I'm kind of like bored and I don't want to write a bunch of like for loops and stuff. I just
Mhm,
ask Claude and he
mhm.
does it for me. So
Dude.
it's interesting. It's different like being a builder these days.
Right. Right. It is. Because I was using Copilot, I'm using Cursor, which I haven't used Claude directly. Um, I don't know if Cursor uses it or not, but how do
Yeah, I
you
think
use,
Cursor defaults to
okay.
Claude.
Okay. I thought I might have seen that somewhere.
But I tried using Cursor, and the that's this is another like okay, I booted up Cursor, opened my code base. We have, and maybe this is like revealing the truth of our theme, but
Mhm.
there's we're built off of the Prestige theme, and the
Right.
way that they have like all the JavaScript is just in this one theme.js file, and
Right.
now that's like 2,500 lines or something, probably worse. And as soon as I started talking to Claude through Cursor, it like listened to what I said about something very specific that I wanted to change,
Right.
and then it started at line one and like made a huge diff. And I was like, okay, I need to undo all of this and go back to the way that I used to do things because I'm not ready for this.
You're like, nope. That's funny because I've used it on, I guess now that you mention it, mostly smaller files. And yeah, I've seen some of those long ass theme files, and that's so funny. You're just like, nope, just
Yeah,
nope
no,
right
thank
out
you.
of there. That's so funny.
It's not too
Um,
bad though to like ask Claude some specific. A lot of the things that I work with Claude on these days are we started getting into adding some magic to Google Sheets. And we use a lot of Google Sheets for things.
yeah, you do.
Um, yeah, you helped me with one. And so we're doing a lot more of that these days, like some bank reconciliation stuff for the finance team. Like it's cool
Oh, cool.
how that stuff is like progressing through
Nice,
the
man.
organization. But yeah, it's a lot of like those are always pretty small, like little JavaScript, like 300 line things,
Hmm.
and Claude just bangs those out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I actually I did the same thing recently because I was working on a Google Sheets app script deal, and I couldn't remember like the syntax for like getting rows and getting the data within a row and the
Yeah,
active like all in like an edit trigger is like I didn't want to have to go. I remember last time I looked it up, it just took me forever to get it right. So I just asked it and it just nailed it. It was so
yeah,
nice. Like a certain percentage of the time, it just nails it. And you're like, dude, I would have spent 45 minutes. Like I would have figured it out, but I would have spent a good 30 minutes just, messing around with the syntax and going through six different bad websites,
yeah.
to find examples and stuff.
Especially when you're trying to get started and it's like a blank screen.
Yes.
Like it's way faster to read something that was output and understand like whether or not that meets all of your criteria than it is to
Yeah.
try and just like write it out test it. At least most of the time when you get something from Claude, it works, even though it's not perfect, and then you just adjust from there. And that's been
Yeah.
huge for us.
Yeah, because so much of the time that's the thing you're having to work like battle through as a developer is that you're just trying to get going and your brain is kind of fighting against you. Like once you're into the flow of working on something, then it just
Hmm.
kind of flows unless you're trying to learn Rust yesterday like an idiot.
How did that go?
Dude. Okay, dude. Several issues here. Um, one is that Rust. I've seen people tweet about Rust, like it's great, blah blah blah. And I see that Shopify supports it. Cool. I finally had a reason, and I'm not the guy that's out here learning different languages all the time. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
like stick with what I know. And but I needed to look at it because I'm doing a discount function for a B2B use case that could
Hmm.
potentially have a bunch of line items. And somebody told me that like on 150 line items, your discount function or your functions are gonna chew through all the execution limits, just like parsing JSON, especially if there's like a JSON metafield in there or something like that.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, I got to figure out Rust. So I cracked it open. The code looks ridiculous, dude. The syntax, I mean, it's like, have you ever looked at Objective C? Like the syntax just looks so weird.
Yeah.
And
Does Rust have like reference notation and stuff like that you have to work with?
I think I think it does. It has like probably types. It just looks so different to me. And then and then I was getting cursor to write some stuff and it was writing some stuff and I was like, for starters, or let me just log something to the console.
Uh-huh.
Like that can't be too hard. And then it like imported it was interpreting the log as output, and then it was saying that the output format was invalid. So I'm like, it didn't even and then on top of that, I realized today that uh my Shopify app dev CLI was not picking up the changes I made in code. It was running the previous version that I had deployed of the function. So like I finally, it took me like a while to realize that this like because it's like layers and layers of confusion. And like the top layer was that none of the changes I was making were even were even taking effect.
Yeah, that's a big
So
layer.
yeah, dude. So and then
So
today
you have to write those functions in Rust? I thought you could do it in like JavaScript or something.
y- you can do JavaScript, but it's Rust is a lot more efficient, is what I'm told. So like when like you're dealing with those execution limits, if you're running up against them, then you could be screwed with JavaScript. But the other thing I saw yesterday is just recently, like September 18th, they announced that there's like a 40% performance improvement to JavaScript's handling of the input stuff,
Heck yeah.
which is pretty cool. And then the other thing that multiple people told me, they were like, honestly, just write it in JavaScript or TypeScript. I can't figure out TypeScript either. And
Yeah.
they're
JavaScript's fine.
like, JavaScript's fine. Like, and they said like just ask AI to translate when you have it working in JavaScript. Just ask AI to translate it to Rust.
Oh,
And
that's a good idea.
multiple people told me they did that, which makes sense. That seems like the kind of thing AI would do a good job of. So
Totally.
maybe I'll just circle back to it. But I didn't
You
figure out how
should
to import a package and just basic stuff.
yeah. You should write it in Rust and in JavaScript and see if it actually has any impact.
Yeah, no, I'm not that guy, dude. I'm not that guy, David. I don't, I really don't care enough
Well, I'm
about.
lazy, so I would just like I'm just doing this in JavaScript.
Yeah. Um,
It does remind you like the convenience that you get in Liquid with some of the limitations there.
mhm,
Um, like, I don't know how much you deal with Liquid stuff, um, but
a
there are
bit.
some big limitations. Like a for loop cannot go more than 50 times.
Right.
And so you end up building stuff in a way that deals with that. And I think, well, obviously that causes your theme to be more performant because you have to think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess same is true for discount functions.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean that's kind of thing with Shopify is that the limitations are like explicit. You have zero control over them, and then and they're usually for very good reason. And so then you just
Hmm.
have to work around it, as opposed to like with open source, it's like you can do anything you want, and then fast forward a few years, and every site has a huge load in the loop
Yeah. What have I
problem.
done to myself?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, my buddy Eric did a whole podcast for Magento back a couple years ago called "Load in the Loop," and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you saw that. Him and Ivan would review sites for performance issues.
Yeah.
You know? Um, but yeah, dude. Like, but Liquid is pretty cool, man. Um, I've been getting more comfortable with it, and I use it in Mechanic, which is like a different flavor of Liquid, and then I
Mm.
do a little bit of front end stuff. But I really like it, actually. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
yeah. Um, so on the Google Sheets thing, what I was saying was that I had to do. Oh yeah. So the last time I had done app script stuff with an edit trigger was for the stuff for your stuff.
Hmm.
And I remember it worked fine, like it triggered reliably and stuff. And so I'm taking over this project that this developer had not worked out for, and I'm looking at, they have a sheet and they have the app script. And the first time I test it, it triggers a webhook over to Gadget, and it saves the data. I'm like, cool. And I'm looking at the run times, and it's like every time this thing runs, it's like 30 seconds, 25 seconds. And then it errored out a couple times, and I was like, I for a second I thought that I was like, you know what, dude, this app script stuff is probably just not reliable, because I mean it's free. Like, how can you like? And the spreadsheet had like, I don't know, like 10,000 records or something. So it's like maybe it just doesn't work at this scale.
Hmm.
And then I basically told them like we should do it on Airtable. They're like, no. And then I took another look, and the previous developer, in order to handle deletes, it was every time a cell was edited, it was saving the entire sheet to like a hidden sheet, which I didn't know existed.
Oh,
And then it was using that to compare a delta on the current state, and it was just super slow.
geez. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever used an on edit trigger. Most of the time, I try and either do like a drop down menu
Oh,
for
that's
someone to just
right.
like, hey, I'm done with the sheet. Now do the
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I've used like because that's also a bit of cognitive load for someone who's working in the sheet. They have to like go remember to click this thing up at the top.
Hmm.
Uh, to give like a kind of an on edit experience, I set up a trigger that's just a time based trigger, um, and then set like another in another column, set whether or not that row's been processed, and
Hmm.
then just as part of the time trigger, it checks for new things and then does stuff.
Oh, that's cool. By the way, can you query on updated rows when you do that? Can you only grab updated rows on that kind of a trigger?
No, I
Oh, okay.
just it's like a mutex or whatever nerd word it is, where you like there's just one more column that gets added that says whether or not this one has been touched.
Hmm.
Um, I guess it's a little bit different because in this scenario, each time someone goes into this sheet, there's like new rows for them to process. And
Hmm.
so they're going to the new row, selecting some things in a column, and then next time the trigger happens, it just puts a one in the next column over so that it knows next time to just look at those that don't have ones.
Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha. Because that was the other thing I was looking at was the doing it on an updated thing, but it seems like it's not possible.
Yeah, plus I feel like there might be shenanigans with Google Sheets when you like refresh a page or something, or like um, I know when you go back into a sheet, if you've got functions set in a cell, they'll reprocess. So I don't know if that has any
Mm,
impact.
right, right. But it is interesting how like a lot of decent sized like businesses like want to use Google Sheets for some kind of an integration. Like, you know, I've
For a while there, Sheets were evil. Do you remember that?
what's that?
Everybody was like, everybody was trying to get out of Excel documents. Like, we shouldn't be doing this in a spreadsheet. It should be in a pen or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
It feels like it's
Right.
going back. Like,
I don't I
let's
mean
just use
I
the tools that work.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's an overall trend going back or not. You probably would. I mean, you may have seen that internally. Maybe they considered a PIM and then they went. Well, you were looking at a PIM, if I recall.
Yeah,
Um, so did you guys basically just say, "Hey, we can do it in Sheets"?
that's where we're at right now. I mean, a
Nice,
PEM is just like another thing I have to worry about breaking. And every time
totally.
I talk to these PEM companies, um, they say that they're deeply integrated with Shopify. I get excited. They
Yeah,
say Metafields. I get even more excited.
right.
But then when I go in, it's like, okay, we support Metafields, but it's only single line text,
Right.
no product or variant references, and it's just like, okay, so you don't support Metafields.
You're like, let me talk to you about my collection search results adjacent adjacent content meta fields, and
Oh man, I feel like I came into Shopify at the perfect time. Like Metafields were just released,
yeah,
and I was
yeah.
I was already starry-eyed about like learning about Shopify. Um, and the Metafields were here, and my previous assumptions about Shopify were just destroyed by the existence of Metafields. And then now they drive like a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, like coming at just the right time, because I feel kind of like that too. I mean, so many people were in Shopify for so long and they dealt with things like I'll hear about pre 2.0 themes and stuff,
Mhm.
and I don't get it. Like I don't, I don't have any memories of that. Like I'm assuming they were bad. And like sections, I
Yeah.
think are really good, and metafields and then flow. Like I was thinking before, I was doing a flow that worked off a schedule trigger, and like in order to get it started, you have to like create the flow, schedule it some point in the future, like a couple minutes in the future. Then you have to wait, and then it runs. And then what I do now is I make my changes and I retry the flow to rerun with the new changes. But I was like,
Oh,
dude, imagine before there was a retry, like people working on scheduled flows. And actually there didn't even used to be a scheduled trigger. I remember I saw a third-party app that did scheduled triggers for flows. Anyway, but yeah, like there's so much cool stuff, and that is like such a big part of your work, that like just didn't
yeah.
exist before.
And when Shopify does it's like usually pretty good. So by the time
Yeah,
it makes it there and you can use it, like you can feel confident that it is usable and it will work.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, my like before we went into this replatform to get onto Shopify, my what I knew about Shopify was it's limited in your customizability, and like you have to be careful about the apps you install because everyone's installation is just like super crammed with apps, and you
right,
install something and it breaks everything, and I was like really scared of that. But now it
right.
seems like apps are pretty nice. Like you can install the app, it won't break stuff until you're ready to
That's a very
inject it into
broad
your
statement,
theme.
dude. That's a very broad statement. Apps are nice.
Okay, well, if it
Like
says
the
built
better
for
apps.
Shopify, then
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
won't.
yeah.
Then I'll install it.
Oh, dude, I love a built for Shopify app. Like
Definitely.
yeah, you just immediately have such a higher level of trust.
If your app lives within the Shopify admin Chrome, I trust you 100% more.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if the app UI is up to date. Um, but
That's
I mean,
another
looking,
thing. Like
yeah,
the 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 breadth of quality in apps is still pretty huge. There
yeah.
are apps that are highly rated and everyone uses them, but then when you go in, it just feels like it's not
Oh yeah.
it's not new. Like it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Doesn't
Um,
feel, that's the simplest way to put it, man. There's, there's a lot of apps that just don't feel good, dude.
yeah, I mean maybe that's from our Magento time, just like having to feel good about modules is like a thing that maybe we both have baggage around, and so
I mean,
that helps.
I think it's universal. Like you want to feel good about whether they're apps or modules or plugins or whatever you want, you want, and in any kind of an ecosystem you have
Hmm,
players that are going to be less well integrated than others, some that are kind of slapped together. Um,
true.
I'm going to test your Magento memory real quick because my friend just texted me and was asking me about error logging. He was like, "Hey, we need an app to do error logging in his Magento instance." And I couldn't even I was like, "Dude, I can't I haven't done Magento for like 5 years." But I felt a little embarrassed that I didn't remember.
Isn't it? Wasn't it? Like there's a so it's PHP and there is a global. I don't remember what it's called, but you can always access the mage object. Wasn't it like mage colon log
Right.
something like that?
Right, I remember that. Yeah, that's true. But I guess like an error reporting. I feel like there was like an error reporting solution or module, whatever, that would like send out notifications and let you handle it. Anyways, I'm feeling dirty just talking about Magento this much. Uh,
Yeah.
feels
Well, I
wrong.
was thinking about like when did I meet Kaylin? And it was, do you remember?
Hackathon, right?
It wasn't a hackathon, it was a
Shoot.
bug-a-thon.
Come on, dude. Close enough.
It was
Bug-a-thon.
Magento Magento had just been acquired by eBay, I think. And for some reason they wanted help. Maybe we're still under NDA for this, I don't know. But they wanted help from the community, like fixing some of the bugs that people
Yeah, I
were
remember
complaining
that.
about. And so they just got like 20 of us or 30 of us in a room with some Magento project managers and developers, and we met like some of the rock star devs and old Magento. Anyway, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking about Magento still.
Yeah,
Shopify.
this is horrible. But who does a bug-a-thon? Like the whole point of a hackathon is that it's like fun, it's like aspirational. It's like we're gonna hack on
Hmm.
cool stuff. And like Shopify wouldn't do that, dude. They wouldn't. First of all, you can't fix Shopify bugs. That's out of hand. It's uncalled for. I was trying to think about whether like the way Shopify functions work, where you're deploying code directly to run like natively in the SaaS. I was thinking to myself like that doesn't exist anywhere else, and then I was like, who knows? Maybe I know there's like stored procedures that like some
Hmm.
systems have. I don't know if that would qualify, but and I don't know that much about other systems in the first place. But there's like cartridges, I think, in Salesforce. But
Oh
like,
yeah, Salesforce cartridges.
yeah,
More good times. So
is that
one good thing
yeah,
I'll say about Salesforce is their their promotion engine is really good.
okay,
You can do a lot of really cool pricing stuff, and like I have problems with that now.
yeah,
So
right.
like
What
there's people on the team who are like say things like, didn't we used to be able to do this? And that stings in my
right,
heart when I hear that, but
dude?
working through it.
What are let's talk about it, dude. I'm working on a couple discount functions as we speak.
Oh,
Yeah, what's the discount you need to do? We'll get this done
Um,
live, man. We'll
yeah.
fire up Cursor. We'll get it done.
Uh, I regret to inform you, Caitlin, but I already found a really good discount app. Maybe you can check it out. But
Well, that's
it's
good.
so there's this app called Regios, and
Oh yeah,
maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. It's I saw this guy on Twitter, Toby, I think is his name,
yeah.
and he was talking about running his business, and I always thought that was interesting. So I checked out the app, and there's one feature that he has that's super cool. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is instead of going through a discount and like checking boxes of like how you want it to work and what it should apply to,
Mhm.
there's logic based discounts, and so that looks like Shopify Flow.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's so cool. I've seen
It's
that. Yeah,
really cool. Like
yeah.
specifically, there's like if you make a discount in Shopify, you set a particular percent, like 20% off, and then you can select a collection that it applies to. With this logic thing, it allows you to do something like for the apparel collection, it should be 20% off. For the bags collection, it should be 15% off or something
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
Um, and that alone is something that I don't think I've seen. Um,
Dude,
but
when
that,
I
yeah,
saw
like
that app, when I saw the like flow style editor for that app, I was like, dude, this is way too good. Um, and I met Toby in Toronto. Good dude, very
oh,
tall.
cool.
Yeah, good dude.
All
And
the coolest people are tall.
yeah, yeah, he's a tall guy too. And it's yeah, I think he's gonna kill it, dude. Sometimes I'll think to myself, like, I wish you could like invest in like micro invest. 'Cause I'm such a horrible investor. But like I can see it, like I can see when somebody's just gonna take off or like an app's gonna take off. But
Definitely.
like, like just like 100, just to say, just to, so you could say you did, like $100. Like I called it. I called it that app was gonna take off, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
there's probably a market for that. I bet you could set that up somewhere on like one of those betting sites.
Dude, that's what we need, man. We need that in the ecosystem, dude. You see a young up and comer and you can bet on them, you
Yeah,
know?
betting is always helpful for everyone, right?
That's always that's always a net benefit to society. um, nice. Well, okay, so but wait a second. So then you don't have this problem that there's stuff you can't do that Salesforce could do.
Maybe. I'm
Problem
still
solved.
validating. But
Okay.
yeah, problem hopefully solved. I mean, one of the specific things that uh, Salesforce had is this concept of price books,
Hmm.
and a price book can apply to a particular like customer group, and
Hmm.
that allows you to have a full sheet of prices that every product should be for this specific group.
Hmm.
So it's not like a pick a collection, apply a certain discount. You
Hmm.
can just do like this thing was $89. I want it to be $79. So it doesn't have to be a rate. It's just this is the price.
Hmm.
And Shopify kind of has that with the compare at price. Um,
Hmm.
but there's shenanigans there.
Hmm.
For example, if you have oh here's an interesting problem. We have products and variants. Everybody has that. But sometimes we have variants
You're not
that
special, David. Everybody
no,
has
I'm not.
products and variants.
But if you like, let's say you have a color that you don't use anymore, or you discontinued an old color,
Right.
um, and that variant still lives on the product, but
Right.
just that variant is disabled. If you don't also set up the compare at price on that variant to be the new sale price, then instead of getting strike through prices on PLPs and stuff, you get a range,
Ooh.
and that range has been killing me. in the last
But
couple years.
all right, but question, when you say, because I ran into this before where I needed to disable a variant because in NetSuite they can basically do that. They can disable the equivalent of a variant. And I looked at it and there isn't a way to disable a variant. Like you can delete it or you
Yeah,
can
you'd have to
like,
delete it,
yeah.
which is sad because it's got Metafields and stuff all filled out. So if I delete it, then I'm going to have to recreate it at some point.
Those poor
Um,
beautiful Metafields, they're just gonna get
I know.
orphaned.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah, okay.
Metafields are
So
so
the
cool.
yeah, Metafields are pretty cool. Actually, I'm doing this NetSuite thing, and they have price, like kind of what you're saying. They have prices per customer, and they
Mm.
also have per customer group. And then on top of that, they also have this markdown or markup tool where a given user can have a certain number multiplier markup on top of whatever group they're in.
Oh, you have
And
some fun stuff there.
yeah, and when we first were specking it out, like a few months, like 2 months ago, I was looking at it, and then I was like, going, dude, I think the B2B price logic is going to be too limiting because, like, you can do price lists and catalogs, but there's only a very simple markup, markdown percentage
Hmm.
tool, and if you don't use that, then you have to import individual prices for every product, which gets to be a nightmare for every product and for every customer, which gets to be a
Oh,
nightmare. So I realized we could use Metafields and discount function or a cart transform function to set those prices, and then just have a little the same logic duplicated in the liquid, in the price in the liquid to match up with the function. And so we scoped it out, and then like a month or so later, like the project starts, and I was like starting to work on it again, and I had forgotten that how we were planning to do it, and I was freaking out like the other day, and I was telling the client like, oh shoot, like the catalog price isn't going to work for this, and then I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do functions and stuff. But
yeah. Anytime you have a problem, just remember that Metafields exist.
yeah, well, but you got to have the functions too, man. The functions to me are more are I mean, it's not that you have to compare them. It's like why not have both? But to me the functions are more, I mean, and the functions rely heavily on Metafield. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two the two in unison are a beautiful combination.
I agree. I've only done one function, and I don't. I feel like there's no apps for these yet. There are fulfillment constraint functions,
Mhm.
which have saved my butt. Um, we had a we had a problem where, uh, for some reason, we were getting, uh, like, so let's say someone bought a travel case set and a gift box. Sometimes the travel case set and the gift box would be split, fulfilled between a store and our warehouse.
Mhm.
And so I made a fulfillment constraint that basically said if there's a gift box in this order, make sure that everything fulfills together. It sounds super simple, but just getting through understanding how functions work was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
This app is still in our this app is still in our store, and it's like so simple. There's one button to either create or delete the function. So like, um,
Wait,
but
what do
anyway,
you mean to create? Oh, the app. Oh, got you. To do the GraphQL mutation to create the function.
yeah, that was a bit of a
Okay.
journey figuring that out. Like,
Dude. Yeah, it's
so in order
it's
to write a function, I need to define it, and then I need to like create it, and then
yeah.
I don't remember all the stuff. But
Yeah. It's always confusing the first couple times. Um, Dude, that's interesting because I don't even think I realized there was that that fulfillment constraint deal because I've looked at a couple scenarios where somebody is like having some like what you described, like if an order is stocked in this warehouse and that warehouse, then what happens? And then there's like the order routing logic
hmm.
that you can use, but it does some weird things. Like actually, somebody had, I think, the exact opposite of what you're describing, which is if an order had two. Okay, it was weird. It was if an order has two items, and one of them is in one location, two line items. One has quantity one has quantity two. The first line item is in location A. The second line item has one in location A, and then and then it has one in location B. But the whole order will get fulfilled in location A, and it will throw an error that there's not enough inventory to fulfill that second line item with quantity two. Um, but anyways, I
Mm.
didn't even realize there was a fulfillment constraint function to do that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. That I feel like this is when I started writing this fulfillment constraint thing, I couldn't find any apps for it, and I was like, okay, this is going to be the app that I make. And I was
Nice.
dead set on like making an app. And then I started to think about what does it mean to have an app in Shopify? Well, I'm gonna have to support it.
Dude,
And after that, I was like, okay, maybe I won't make a Shopify app.
yeah.
I feel like that's another
It's
thing for apps that is like a very easy indicator is if they've got live chat and you can talk to someone about something and they're helpful,
yeah.
boom, I need your
Yeah.
app.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at an app called Checkout Links. I was doing some work with them and some flows with Dennis, the founder, and I installed his app and it had a nice checklist onboarding flow with the steps you needed to do. And then I was like, this is the perfect onboarding flow. And I was gonna tell him that. And then in that moment, his live chat thing did one of those auto pop-ups
Uh-huh.
where it says, "Hey, let me know if I can help," the intercom chat bubble. And then I was like, dude, I hate those so much. I was like, I told him, I was gonna say that your onboarding was perfect until I saw that. But he said that but I was like, I know I'm more of a minimalist, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that's helpful to get that auto pop deal. But and he said, yeah, like regular customers like love that stuff. Like normies, like you're obviously a total
Yeah.
normie. Um,
That's another one of those like secret ways to talk shop with someone is just like jumping in one of those chats and being like,
right,
hey, hey, what's up? I don't really
right,
have any requests. I just want to see
right,
how's it going.
right,
How
right,
about that
right,
e-commerce?
right. When you're feeling lonely, just pop into an
Yeah,
app. Chat with Gil on checkout blocks.
that's right.
What's going
Not
on,
anymore.
man? Yeah, not anymore, dude. He's fully corporate now, man. I feel
Oh
like
man, he
his
did it.
yeah, he did it, man. He pulled it off. It's pretty nuts, dude. Um, yeah, dude. It's crazy, man. I feel like his tone is different now. I don't know if I'm just imagining it, but he seems more like a little bit, I don't know, like just a little like not as raw, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't been seeing enough of
No, maybe.
his
I'm sure
his
he's a bit
tweets.
relieved,
Yeah, yeah,
but I don't know.
yeah. I
Never,
mean, when you get
never
that kind
built
of
and sold an app.
yeah, yeah. That was a huge acquisition. I mean, that was super impressive.
Totally.
Um, and it's great. It's really cool how they just rolled it in and then made it basically all free. Like I think most of it is all free. Um,
Except for upsells, which I was curious about and I asked about it, and
mhm.
hopefully I'm not the reason they removed those. I'm sure they had a lot of questions about it. But I was like,
You
oh, checkout
had
blocks
to
is
ask.
free. Now I get to do upsells in the cart. And then, nope.
But how appropriate for the upsell feature to be the upsell. That's awesome, actually. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure there was something about like upsell apps that weren't owned by Shopify were sad about competing. I don't know.
right.
They probably have to think about, like, I'm sure they think about that stuff all the time, making sure they don't uh, compete with app devs. But at the same time, you also see them like making apps sometimes that destroy certain segments. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I'd imagine they're kind of aware of it and like they're not gonna create an app unless there's probably like a lot of reasons to do it. And it like I'd imagine it's probably it's probably got to be like pretty obvious for them that an app is needed by the time they create one. Because they probably are
Yeah,
hearing so much from so many different people across so many different teams, like subscriptions, like we need subscriptions, like da da da, by the time they
yeah. Now
actually
that I
do it.
think about it, like a lot of the apps that Shopify has on the App Store have really bad ratings, and I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
because they're just making a proof of concept to like get the ball rolling for someone
Yeah.
to beat them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way Toby says it is to raise the floor
Hmm.
for the space, which is always what I think of. And um,
Yeah, it seems like it's working. There is like while there is a bit of a gap of quality, it does feel like overall it's continuing to increase.
I think so, dude. Totally. Like there weren't any subscription apps that were killed in the making of that. Like
True.
they're all still here, like um so I don't think it's too much. Same with bundles. Like I don't think it's too much of an issue.
Yeah,
Dang, I had something that came to mind and then I totally forgot.
to make it out
Epic,
to one of
dude.
those things. I have to try and do it next year.
Oh yeah, one of the events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got super busy this summer because multiple reasons, but one of them is my Wishlist app got shut down, so I had to get a new one running, and
hmm
then I decided
Wait,
to switch reviews.
your reason for not going to the event is because of your wish list app? Dude, that's like,
Maybe I shouldn't have started with that one, but yeah.
yeah. You're like, because multiple reasons. And my wish list
Starting with the one
app.
that's not the best.
Yeah.
Oh, I also
So,
went to Disney World this year. That was another reason.
oh,
So that's a
nice.
good
I've never been
reason.
to that.
Should
That's a
have
good
started with
reason.
that one.
Yeah, yeah. You should have, yeah, you should have started with that, dude. Um, that's cool, man. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
We went to a couple different hotels to check it out, and we know someone who works there, so saved a little bit of money. But
Oh,
it
nice.
is not cheap to just like be there.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Dude, it's a whole industry. Like when I found out that people sell planning ebooks for Disney World trips, $10 planning, I about lost my mind, dude. I was like,
I need to
that
get a cut of
is
that.
that's immediately where my mind went. How can I get in on this action? That's crazy though, dude. That's so crazy. I wish I was more able to enjoy the Disney World thing. I kind of just the last time we went, I kind of just powered through. I finally remembered the thing I was about to say earlier, which was that it's funny with apps because when somebody is pitching you on something or even if I ask a question about a problem I'm trying to solve, like how do I do this I don't know, whatever. And if an app person mentions an app, like by default, I'm just like not interested. And maybe if it does exactly what I'm looking for and it's like built for Shopify and you know the person, then you're like, cool. Um, but on the flip side, when you stumble across an app that does exactly what you need, there's nothing better, you know? And
Hmm.
or like when you tell me about an app that solves a certain thing like perfectly, it's like that's awesome, you know. I guess I'm trying to
Yeah,
say there's this like huge dichotomy in when somebody's pushing an app on me versus if I come across an app myself or through somebody recommending it. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's someone like right. So if someone is selling me something, I'm turned off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a weird feel, and I have the exact same thing. Um,
Like there's times when I feel like I hate apps. Like I would just say I hate apps because I'm sick of hearing about them. I like the less apps my client has, the better. I don't want, you know what I mean? And then, but then when you find a cool app, you're like, I love apps. Like this app is great. Like when you said Salesforce had discount stuff that Shopify doesn't have, I was like upset. I was bothered about it. I was like, let's get this fixed. And then when you mentioned the Regios one, I was like, we got this, dude. Problem solved.
yeah,
Apps saved the
yeah.
day,
What's your
dude.
problem then? Why would you
Yeah,
even say that?
yeah. We're good to go. You know.
No, I agree, and that's probably like again the quality gap thing. Like
Hmm.
a lot of what I try and do with our store is stay as native as possible and like
Hmm.
only add when we absolutely need to because I know Shopify is working on lots of cool stuff. And as soon as I am beholden to an app to do whatever, and then Shopify comes out with some solution that maybe solves a different problem, but still could be used in this case, it's like, okay, well, maybe it doesn't make sense to use that from Shopify
Hmm.
because we're already in this other place and it's going to
Hmm.
take me like 2 weeks to get out of it
Hmm.
or more. Um, so that's one of the anxieties that drives my decisions on our
Yeah.
stores, like how to make things least complex as possible. And most of the time, that's by just sticking with what Shopify has.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like the problem might be solved in a different way, or sort of a different underlying model. Or like the other thing too is that like apps are like there's so much overlap between apps solving multiple problems, solving the same problem. Are there any problems that you're currently trying to figure out how to solve that you're not sure how to solve? And also, which email address would be best for the SaaS guys to pitch you at that
Oh
are listening?
no. Problems I'm trying. I whenever I think about stuff like this, it's never um, like technical e-commerce problems. It's more like
People
um,
problems and management, like
yeah,
the
not
whole
even
business.
people, but like our creative team is awesome, and they go out on location and shoot the most beautiful photography,
Hmm.
and um, they work really hard on designs and like coming up with a concept for the site,
Hmm.
and it's always a bit tough to stay like to keep up with slight changes that they want to make to certain layouts and um, so we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the best setup for components in the theme editor.
Hmm.
I shouldn't call them components, like sections, and um, what settings should we have in the section so that the team can easily make things so. And that's really
Right.
hard.
Hmm.
Like one of the things I've talked to you about before is we use meta objects to populate content on our collection pages.
Hmm.
Um, and collection collections in Shopify are just lists of products. You can't pick variants, so we have like a way to pick variants. Um, and then the way that we solved injecting content is um, uh, I feel bad for admitting this, but it kind of sucks. Um,
Tell the
every
truth.
time you output, uh, so when you're rendering a collection, maybe this is going a completely different direction from what you were looking for with this question, but
No, this
um,
works.
uh, so you're outputting products one at a time. Um, and the way that we decide where content should go is based on a product reference on a meta object entry.
Hmm.
So every time you output a product, you have to run through all of the meta object content and see if any one of them should be inserted before or after this one,
Hmm.
and then output it.
Mhm.
which worked great to start. But now, like we're working with the creative team on like what would it look like if we had content injected that took up 2 rows, and that just changes like all the stuff. So okay, now we need to flow the product tiles in around that thing. How should that like? How do we make sure that the bottom of that content matches up exactly with the bottom of the image from the product tile next to it? And that's the kind of stuff that we spend a lot of time on trying to make sure is right. Um, and then like before it even gets to the technical, like get it output onto the site, the project management of meeting with the creative team, talking about what kind of things are scary or not too scared about, especially with it like being fuzzy all the way up until like the days or week before. Um, that's probably one of my bigger challenges.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got nothing for you. It sounds complicated. Uh, but we'll have the SaaS guys. We'll have the SaaS
Oh
guys
yeah, reach out.
email you. Um, you know, shoot, I was about to say something and then I forgot again. Yeah, I think that. Well, one thing I was gonna say was it's like it seems like you like every time you talk about your job, it just seems like you really love it, which is cool. Like I'm jealous of that. Like even 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 when things are going okay for me with like being self-employed, like it's always a little chaotic, and I love the idea of just being at a place that you just like love it there, and love the people there, get to do cool work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it
Um,
is great working with good people. I probably don't present the amount of stress that I actually feel well. So
okay. Yeah, you probably don't.
maybe maybe that's part of it. Um,
You're
but yeah, it is
you're
fun.
like, I'm not happy at all, dude.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm dying inside.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like that. I think that happens all the time where you go with a solution and it works, and then later on you realize like you run into something else and you're like, oh God, we should have done this differently, or like I'm running into that myself with
With
some of the
NetSuite,
integration
especially,
stuff.
you start to get crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how your NetSuite integrations work, but a lot of ours are based off of saved searches, and then you just get to see what's in the saved search and then do stuff based on that.
Hmm.
And that ends up with a lot of overwiring where
Mm.
it's like something didn't work well. We've got a big launch today. Where's the inventory? Which switch was it that we missed? Um, always fun.
Dude, NetSuite
Uh,
is so slow. It's
yes,
so
it is.
slow. I was using this ERP called Acumatica recently, which I think is even older and clunkier, but it was fast, dude. I mean, it was a little silly looking, the interface, but it was just like snappy, man. It's like quick. And I
Well,
was
they
like,
got
why
to have
does,
like NetSuite's got to be running on like some old cable
dude,
boxes or something.
dude, I have a query that runs nightly that takes an hour and or a minute and a half to run one query, but it's grabbing a lot of data. But
Yeah, that is one
um,
of the things that everyone's been super happy with on Shopify is just that like you can log in and click something and something happens instantly.
yeah, and I mean even in Shopify, like when I first started using Shopify, I thought it was a little bit slower than what I somehow expected that it would just be like this lightning fast, like almost like Gmail type speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean compared to any other like e-commerce software, it's like amazing. Um, and it does go
Yeah.
down. I mean, it goes down. Like it's funny because it sort of goes down relatively frequently, but I think, and people will always say something on Slack when it goes down, but I think it's probably sort of isolated what's going down, like what's not
Yeah,
loading,
a lot of the
you
time
know?
it's the admin, right?
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
but every time that happens, I am like, okay, now I got to go to the front end, and until it loads, I'm very nervous.
Yeah. Does the front end ever go down? Like in those
It has
scenarios?
before,
Yeah.
but maybe only like once since we've been on it for a
Gotcha.
short period of time.
Good times.